Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul. In this video, we're breaking down Avengers Doomsday. The Russo Brothers have just held a big event in London with some new looks at the movie, and in this video, we're going to be going through it all. There's also a teaser with some different shots shown at CinemaCon, and I think we have to include them as well to kind of go through everything that we know about the movie. There's also lots of comic books to cover as well, and some of the plot leaks that give us a bit of context for what's going on. I won't be talking about anything later in the film that's been rumoured, but I think that we're kind of going to have to talk about what's been said in the opening so that you get a clearer idea on things. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into what happened at the event. Okay, so as mentioned, things were kicked off by the Russo Brothers the other day when they basically put out a post saying they'd be in London and there'd be a surprise at 2 p.m. We have now passed that point, and there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is anyone expecting an Avengers Doomsday trailer is going to be sorely disappointed. However, there is good news, and IOI liked my James Bond cosplays, which was nice. What do you mean you're still thinking about the bad news? Well, obviously, stuff was at a fever pitch, but there was a lot of tempered expectations, and what happened is that basically some of the cast of Avengers Infinity War, they appeared because there's going to be a screening at the location tonight, and then after this, they'll apparently have a Q&A. There are also rumours that they'll have an exclusive look at Avengers Doomsday, but after being tricked by the coffee announcement, I'm not getting tricked again. There's also the first look at the Latvian flag, and they themed everything else around it. Beyond that, we also had stuff on the Doctor Doom theme menu, including Futonov, which is a nod to Vladimir Futonov, aka Doom's predecessor. This was followed by a nod to the Latvian holiday, the Rapprochement, but you missed a trick there, mate. You could have done a Latvian. There's also Cynthia's blend as well, which is named after Doctor Doom's mother, along with Saphira, which is the name of his clan. Lastly is the capital of Latveria, which is known as Hassendats. Anyway, that wraps up the big things from the event, and after a word from our sponsors, we're going to be going through what was shown in the trailer at CinemaCon, the other big leaks, and basically our theories on the film. Now, this video is sponsored by the DC Studio Showcase podcast. It covers everything across the board in the DC universe, from comics to movies to shows and beyond. It's available on the HBO Max YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts, and is hosted by nerd commentator Frankie Smith and pop culture pundit Coy Jandro. Every episode delivers in-depth conversations with guests straight from DC Studios. They break down the latest projects, dive into the comics, and cover everything a die-hard DC fan needs to stay ahead of the curve. With Supergirl and Lanterns right around the corner as well, they're going to be going full throttle all summer long. They go through films, the comics, and the behind-the-scenes stories, and all the must-reads dropping every single week. It's the perfect companion piece if you're deep into the DC world. The podcast is as good a sidekick as Robin, and they'll highlight the comics that you need to grab and what to look out for every single week. The David Corenswet Nicholas Hoult episode is an absolute must listen as well, and it'll go into so much information on Superman that you didn't know before. The podcast goes deep on the industry, the art, and everything that makes DC special. And the guest list is stacked. We've got people like James Gunn, Jim Lee, Sean Gunn, Katie Sackhoff, and a ton of other huge names from the DC universe. So if you're a fan of DC, do yourself a favour and go and check it out. Head over to the HBO Max YouTube channel through my link below, or use the QR code on the screen right now and simply hit play. I genuinely cannot recommend them enough. Massive thank you to the DC Studio podcast as well for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into the breakdown. Now, the film apparently opens with an incursion happening across two realities. Those are the Fox universe and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man one. We're going to see the two realities battling it out, with Tobey being severely outmatched by all the different X-Men. This film is meant to be a swan song for both these universes, and then come the soft reboot after Secret Wars, we'll get a full new X-Men team. After this, we apparently go to Steve's in a setting familiar to what we saw in the trailer attached to Avatar. He's made a life for himself in this brand new timeline, but this has caught the attention of the TVA. Loki and a group of officers arrive and give him a knock at the door, with Loki trying to recruit him. He says that there's lots of issues in the multiverse and wants to see if he'll join him. But Steve apparently turns down his request and just wants to live his life with Peggy and his daughter. Loki tells them though that unfortunately they can't live here, and that this timeline will be destroyed if he does. So they move him to one where he can live a quiet life, with that being the Fantastic Four's universe. Yes, they're also meant to give him a little device to get in touch with them in case something kicks off. But yeah, Steve's gone to the Fantastic Four one and has apparently lived in this timeline unnoticed, and his son has grown to the same age as Franklin. What's been said in the leaks is that we then continue with a post-credit scene from Fantastic Four First Steps. Though Sue initially thinks Doom's there to fight, he's actually come to discuss something with Reed. Reed and the rest of the gang are apparently at a baseball game, and we then see as they return return home. Doom tells Reed about how he's discovered the incursions and that their world will eventually fall victim to them. Doom then asks Reed if it's possible that someone from another universe is living in theirs that shouldn't be. They then scan the world and discover an anomaly. That is, of course, Steve and the rest of his family. They then go to meet him to find out who he is. When they meet, they ask Steve to go back to his universe with them, and Doom and the Fantastic Four are basically brewing a plan to fight against the upcoming incursions. Steve is important as he would rally the heroes of his world, and the 616 is, of course, the sacred timeline. So Doom thinks the key to solving everything lies here. They then travel to their world, which continues on from the ending of Thunderbolts. The ship arrives with a warning, and they head to Wakanda first, like what we saw in the other teaser. As the heroes see a young Steve Rogers, they also quickly understand that something weird's going on here, and once the incursions are explained, everyone comes together. Now this kind of plays off the comics a bit, as it was in those that Black Panther first discovered the incursions. He was out training students in the jungles of Wakanda and then stepped through a barrier that was basically invisible and then looked up and there was a big incursion happening. But yeah, that's just what I've been told, and that kind of sets the stage for what's going down. The teaser is of course filled with reunions, so with Steve meeting back up with Thor and lots of other characters coming face to face in more aggressive ways, I'd say. Now, it's at this point that we see the school for gifted youngsters on the ground and hear the words, "Something's coming, something we may not be able to deter." This is Doom speaking, with Robert Downey Jr. putting on a Latvian accent, which I'm sure you can tell. From what I've heard, Doom actually stays masked the entire film, and though I think he will likely fight Iron Man in Secret Wars, they're trying to show that they're not just cashing in on Robert Downey Jr. Red flames then shoot across the sky, which I believe's an incursion. According to the leaks, the movie will open with the X-Men universe versus Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 1, and we'll learn that they've faced down against many different worlds. So they're a bit cautious about newcomers. Monica is also in this world as well and has been telling them about the 616. Now, we did see from the first teaser that the X-Mansion's been destroyed and there were sentinels moving around in the background. I do wonder though if that's a bit misleading and if the mansion was destroyed by some of these other threats. We then see Doom in all his armour. The first looks at this were dotted about CinemaCon, and it looks like what you'd imagine a live-action Doom to look like, except we've had live-action Dooms before that didn't look like Doom. I'm looking at you, Toby Kebbell. What you doing? But it's great to see him, and he appears to be in the X-Mansion grounds. Throughout the trailer, there's that constant red sky, and we've seen this in the comics during an incursion, so I do wonder if Doom has came here to destroy this reality to save the others. Thor is seen striking him here later, so I feel like he's trying to stop him from destroying their world. Sam appears to be here too, and hey, I have a theory. Now in the comics, we all know Doom has his Doombots, and it's even possible that he may have taken over the Sentinels and be using them to attack the mansion. Now, that's the whole theory. We then get a shot of the team from Wakanda along with the team from Talocan. Namor's there and he's got that giant jawbone throne that we saw in Wakanda Forever, and due to the red sky, it lets you know how widespread the incursion is. Obviously, it's, it encompasses the whole world, but this is just good shorthand to tell you that it is in fact the whole world, in case you didn't know. We then get that shot from the Wakanda teaser with Shuri's back, except this time we can see a wall of water. They could be meeting at his kingdom rather than the desert, and he may be making room for them to come in. Namor might have parted the seas like Moses, and this could be why we could see the Talocan pyramids in the background. We then cut to the new Avengers Tower, or Avengers with a Z. We learned that this had been bought by Val during Thunderbolts, and she's making some updates to the building. If you cast your mind back to that film, then you might remember it was under construction. This is something similar to Stark Tower in the comics, and shows they're going towards that. We also have a big logo that was shown on the doorway in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, but it's been plastered on the side. Along with the Avengers with a Z, we also have some of the current roster of Avengers with an S. This includes Captain America and Ant-Man. We also know that Catherine Newton will be returning as Cassie, and she appears in the trailer with blonde hair, which I'm guessing might have been done because Newton could have been shooting Ready or Not 2 when this happened, or maybe not. Maybe she just wants her hair like that. The red sky is coming through the windows though, and I like how we've kind of got the red of the Marvel Studios logo and brought it into the story in a stylistic way. In the shot with the Fantastic Four, we can also see a screen behind them in what I think might also be the graphic for an incursion in live action. In the comics, Reed explains the incursions, and they then have the John Krasinski version do this in Multiverse of Madness. Reed could be doing the same thing here and outlining how much danger the multiverse is in. We then hear Thor saying how his people are dying and that this threat scares him more than anything before. Now, in case you don't know, incursions basically have the possibility to wipe out another reality, or in most cases too. During them, worlds are pulled towards each other and Earths begin to collide. If they hit each other, the worlds are destroyed. However, there is a way to avoid this. One can stop their reality from being destroyed by destroying the other world before it hits them. There's also ways to get around it too, and during the lead up to Secret Wars, they have the characters phase one world through another. And I do wonder if they might do this in the movie. During the Secret Wars run, Doom also had a bunch of followers called Black Swans who believed he was a god. Doom went under the name Raboom Alal and had several of the swans carrying out his work for him as a way to stop the multiverse from being destroyed. You see, kids, in the comics, Doom learned of a species called the Beyonders who lived beyond the multiverse. They created it, but also wanted to destroy it as well. This would be because it was cool to see or something. Didn't really give them an answer why, but their little science experiment wouldn't be very good for the people of the multiverse, would it? Doom discovered what they were up to, though, and then set in place a 20-year plan to try and avert the destruction of the multiverse. On each reality, they'd place the Molecule Man, who's a Nexus being, and a Nexus being is basically the same person in every single universe. The Beyonders try to use him like a kinetic bomb that would destroy each universe at the same time. Doom would then travel to a world, kill the Molecule Man that lived there, and then travel to the next one. However, this task was near insurmountable due to the expansion of the multiverse, with a new world being created with every single possible pathway. So he created a religion around Raboom Alal that foretold of the destruction of the multiverse and recruited followers in the Black Swans to kill all the Molecule Men across the multiverse. So that's a very long way of saying that the incursion threat is something that scared Thor more than anything. However, it's also possible that he may be referring to Doom. In the comics, Doom gains the power of the Beyonders by hurling a barrage of Molecule Men at them. They then explode, and basically he takes their powers and becomes God Emperor Doom, which ironically is a play on the book God Emperor of June from the June series, which is also releasing the same day, their next entry. Now, we've known since the CinemaCon teaser that Thor's talked about how he's fought with many warriors in his time and how they were far stronger than any of them, but they were the ones that died. However, they scare him less than the threats of this one. The title Doomsday could obviously be referring to the incursions, but I think obviously Doomsday could be about how Doom gets his day and becomes the most powerful person in the multiverse. Thor basically says they're going to need a miracle, and this could be because of the incursions, but also Doom becoming as powerful as he becomes. With the Beyonders' powers, he can remake the multiverse, and he creates Battleworld after the final incursion happens. It's also possible that he could be getting that power from Kang, and finally they're putting a tie on that plot thread. And always remember, guys, just remain humble. One day you can be the big baddie in the MCU as they're building towards him in Avengers Kang Dynasty, and the next day you can be working for the Daily Wire, so stay humble. But yeah, Battleworld pulls together all the remaining pieces of the world that remain, and then fudges it together into this world ruled by him. We then see a new shot of Cyclops. Cyclops is going to be played by James Marsden once more, and he's going to be getting a more comic book accurate costume. We saw in the Avatar teaser that he was doing this gigantic optic blast, and that's actually inspired one of our t-shirts at the merch store below. There we have not only this full power one, which creates a giant X, but also our Doom one as well. We've got a big line of stuff and massive discounts as well, and it all goes towards helping videos like this get made, so thank you if you've got one. Either way, I do think that we'll learn that this is a continuation of the Days of Future Past timeline, and that Cyclops here has been groomed to take over the school when things are done. Charles and Magneto basically look like they're on the last legs, and the way they're talking in the stuff we've seen so far, it's clear they don't think they're going to be around much longer. If you read the comics as well, then you do know that Cyclops does go on a villain arc after Avengers vs. X-Men, and he actually gets put in prison by the end of it. So, I do think with all the death and destruction, that if they keep him around, that he may come out of this film a little jaded. That scream in the first teaser was iconic, and clearly building off the introduction to the X-Men cartoon. But I think there was a lot of pain there, and he's been through a lot of loss and probably doesn't want to lose anyone else. So far, Famke Janssen has said she's not in the movie, so I do wonder if, the Phoenix or Jean Grey will have died off screen and on the way back to her home planet. And that's why Cyclops is just at breaking point anyway. We then see some of the fights that are going down with Gambit fighting Shang-Chi. Gambit has his stuff as well, which is good. Now, we know from the Shang-Chi post-credits scene that they had picked up something strange, and I do wonder if he's going to bring news of the incursions and things going on a quantum level. It's clear that he's been brought into the Avengers as well by Wong. Obviously, we've seen him meeting with Captain Marvel, Hulk as well, and now it seems like he's more of an official member. It also kind of highlights the sort of mashups we'll see going down and how we'll have stuff like Mystique appearing as Yelena. Mystique is in her classic white costume, and mate, I bloody knew they wouldn't have a naked blue lady walking around like the good old days, mate, back when it was good. I bloody knew it. But yeah, obviously, they want to include the Phase 4, 5 and Heroes in a big way too, rather than just being like, forget about it. So they'll have them laced throughout the movies and fighting some characters that we've seen popping up before. You might also remember that a couple of years ago, before they did that big overhaul, that I did a video talking about the plans for Kang Dynasty. I added the full lineup of new heroes would be going against Kang and then lose at the end, which would then take us into Secret Wars. So I do think something similar is going to happen, and we're going to get lots of crazy mashups with the new guys, and even Alan Cummings is kind of let slip that he'll be going against Reed Richards. Well, Nightcrawler going against Reed Richards. I don't know if Alan Cummings would be that good. He's good on traitors, I suppose. But yeah. That's going to be what's happening. Now we are of course also going to be getting Thor vs Doom. This is a big meta thing as well, as we have the hashtag strongest Avenger versus the guy who's played probably the most famousest Avenger. We see how powerful that Doom is though, as he's able to stop Stormbreaker with one hand. He catches it between his fingers, and I feel like this whole thing is deliberately done to mimic the snap. Thor uses Stormbreaker much in the same way he hurled it during Infinity War, and we also had Thanos then snap his fingers and stop him, which I feel like this is kind of calling back to. That led into one of Thor's greatest losses, and half the universe died, and him doing the same thing here is possibly going to cause them to lose pretty much all the multiverse. So well done, mate. Well done again. But yeah, seeing that Doom can do this shows they aren't messing around, and from the off he's going to be a very powerful character. Doom's power level has kind of been up and down throughout the comics, throughout the years, but they have had points where he's basically been a god. That's not only in Secret Wars, but also the original Secret Wars from the 80s. There he stole the power from a character known as the Beyonder, without the S, which I'm sure won't get confusing. But yeah, Doom clearly isn't breaking his sweat over going toe to toe with Thor, and I do wonder if Stormbreaker might even be destroyed. Kinda like what Hela did to Jonathan. But yeah, that's what his daughter's been using. However, he may call on that to help defeat the baddie. We then hear "Hey pal" from Steve Rogers, who again has come across from the Fantastic Four universe on board their ship. He has long hair and a beard, which shocks Thor quite a bit. This is sort of an evolution from his Infinity War look, and we do know that he's going to be wearing a similar costume to what he had in Endgame. But because of this, I also wonder what's going to happen with the Joe Biden cap that we last saw at the end of Endgame. We've never had anything confirmed at all in terms of where he is, and I do wonder if we'll see a young and old Cap interact. I think it would be actually a good way to show how the timelines and time travel work, and how old Cap might not even be able to give advice because this is something that never happened to him. Steve also catches Mjolnir as well, showing that he is indeed still worthy. Now beyond that, we have the other leaks that will probably spoil some of the film for you, but they'll put more stuff in context. I kind of kept this out, the main stuff, because it is a bit spoilery, so if you don't want to know, you better go. But yeah, you still here? All right, well, the leaks say that after the pals all reunite in the 616, an incursion happens, and they then head to the X-Men universe. The Marvels show that the world is won over from the 616, and from what we can see, their world is crashing into theirs. From what I've been told, this then leads into a battle of the Avengers and X-Men, and that's what's basically going to be the first big thing in the movie. According to the leaks, Monica then comes out and stops this as she's from that universe and explains that they're chill. So it's going to be something massive, and we'll kind of get to show off the Fox X-Men universe characters in a way that we've never really seen them before. Obviously, this is probably going to be the last time most of them appear, and the MCU will then reboot them with some new characters, but probably keep Hugh Jackman around until he's 90. Until he's fucking 90! I'm guessing that Doom wins in the end as well, but you can probably guess that due to the fact that Secret Wars is following. And so far, I don't know if there's going to be anything from the MCU released in between this and that. Also wonder how Strange and Clear are going to play into it in the end. There has been rumours that they're actually taking on the roles of the Black Swan, and they'll both be revealed to be Doom's followers. That would make a lot of sense as well, as Strange was side by side with Doom when he destroyed the Beyonders. When Doom made Battleworld, he was at his side and he was his right-hand man. Strange even lamented that if he'd stepped up, then he could have been the one who took the power and then reshaped the multiverse. We're also going to have the TVA in Loki as well, and I do wonder if they're the factor that makes Doom switch sides. Might be the fact that he just has a different view of how to save the multiverse though, but I would find it interesting if they showed up, imprisoned Doom, or tried to get him out of the group and he was like, fuck this mate, I'm gonna do it my way, you bitch. But we also have the fact that if the leaks are correct, then Steve knows that the TVA has a Loki running it. I'm guessing that's gonna come up in conversation with Thor, and we'll finally see as the brothers are reunited. Loki might even take the place of the Beyonders, as technically, he has the power to control the multiverse. This could then give Doom the power to make Battleworld, and it'll be interesting to see what comes from that. I also feel like it might be revealed that Steve is the one who caused the incursions by going to be with Peggy. As we brought up in our very first breakdown, it was quoted on John Campion, mate, so I'm patting myself on the back, but the child that he has with Peggy shouldn't technically exist. He's going back in time to places, having babies and stuff, throwing everything off sync. The guy's a maniac. What do you mean he also kissed Sharon Carter? That's his bloody niece. The guy is a madman, and I do wonder if Doom's gonna be like, look mate, this Steve guy's gotta fucking go, because he's destroyed everything. I know that has been theorized a lot, that Steve's the one who's basically caused the incursion, so it's not really a unique statement, but that's kind of what I imagine will be a reveal throughout the movie. It was all his fucking fault. Anyway, that wraps up the video, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the trailer. If you've enjoyed this breakdown, then please hit the thumbs up as well, and make sure you subscribe for our constant coverage on the movie. I'm guessing we'll have some follow-up videos on this as well, and just be milking Avengers Doomsday until and after it releases. Please drop a like on the video too, and leave a comment with all your thoughts below. If you want to follow us on Instagram as well and keep up to date with what we're doing, then make sure that you check us out at Heavy Spoilers. Members of the channel, as always, get early access to videos like this every single week, and for just 99 cents a month, you can check out a breakdown a week early, a week before anyone else, a week. But yeah, just 99 cents, but it goes a massive way towards helping the channel, and thank you so much to everyone who does that. It really means a lot to me, so appreciate it. Now, if you want something else to watch, we've got a breakdown on screen right now of something else that you guys will probably love just as much as you like this. What do you mean you didn't like this video? What the bloody hell's wrong with you? Well, hopefully I'll see you over there. Hopefully I like it even more, and thanks for watching through this one. As always, I've been your host, Paul. You've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.